The moment Prince's voice echoed through the courtroom, Diddy's expression shifted. His composed demeanor cracked as a final, haunting recording from the late music icon played, an unexpected testimony from beyond the grave. What was in this audio that rattled one of the industry's most powerful figures? On day 3 of this explosive trial, the courtroom was stunned by evidence no one anticipated. And now, the implications are rippling through Hollywood, leaving everyone asking, what comes next?
He would get physical. That one male guy who did things with Diddy and Cassie said he witnessed him get physical. Don, so again, we talked about how the domestic charges aren't, what he's being, what he's on trial for. But boy, it's stacking up. And I feel that the jury is going to take that into consideration.
The first Diddy party I went to was at Prince's house. So you want to go to Prince's house to the Diddy party where Tyrese is performing and Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher are swinging on swings. That is what's happening on the other side of the wall. And so the one thing that makes this party different than a Jamie Foxx party or any other celebrity party that wrangles a bunch of young women or guys or whatever too, is that Diddy didn't let you.
What you're about to hear was recovered from Prince's private vault, the prosecutor announced. The courtroom immediately buzzed with tension. Journalists began typing furiously. Spectators leaned forward. This wasn't just any evidence, this was a voice from beyond the grave. The prosecutor explained the recording was made just weeks before Prince's death in 2016, never intended for the public. Prince created this as a form of protection, she said, a personal account of what he witnessed firsthand. As Prince's voice filled the room, a hush fell over the courtroom. A woman in the gallery covered her mouth, visibly shaken. This wasn't the confident performer the world knew. This was Prince in a rare, vulnerable moment. His voice was calm, but heavy with concern. I'm making this recording because I don't know who to trust anymore, Prince began. His tone was low and deliberate. The audio was crisp. You could even hear him breathing between sentences. There was no performance here, just truth. Then came the turning point. Prince started naming names, citing dates, and describing locations, placing Diddy at the center of private gatherings in the Hamptons and Miami. These were the same parties that 3 previous witnesses had already testified about. As the recording played, all eyes turned to Diddy. His once controlled expression faded. He sat motionless, staring ahead, while his attorney leaned in to whisper, only to be ignored. What happens at these parties isn't just wrong. It's criminal, Prince said with unmistakable urgency. I've seen how they operate. I've seen who gets hurt. Each word seemed to land with force. Prince wasn't just echoing claims, he was confirming them. And he couldn't be silenced, cross-examined, or discredited. His testimony stood as unshakable. Prince even referenced a specific party in December 2015, naming celebrity attendees who had previously denied being there. He described private upstairs rooms and details that mirrored the prosecution's earlier outline, down to the smallest detail. The courtroom was silent, hanging on every word. Even the judge leaned forward, listening intently. I tried to talk to him, Prince said in the recording. Told him it had to stop. He laughed and told me to mind my business if I wanted to keep working. At that moment, the prosecutor paused the recording, perfectly timed. All eyes locked on Diddy. His confidence was gone. His face pale. His hands, still until then, began to tremble. His lit attorney slid a yellow legal pad in front of him, likely to shield his reaction from the jury, but it was too late. Everyone had seen it. The moment Prince's voice named him, the image Diddy had worked so hard to maintain began to unravel.
Damn, what if Prince was letting Diddy, what if he caught wind of some, I'll just say allegedly, stuff that Diddy might have been doing? That seems to be, I ain't talking about consensual things, I'm talking about illegal things or whatever. But I'm just would Diddy be that dumb to not think that Prince, this celebrity, has cameras in his house as well? So I'm just trying to think, because if Prince has cameras and he's recording stuff, to get some dirt on Diddy, I don't know. I feel like Diddy, with all his cameras that he allegedly had, or no, they actually found cameras.
Problems?
That I don't know, right? What I know is that he was really
health conscious. He was a vegan. He didn't abuse alcohol. I didn't know of him of drugs. He worked out, so, that also really concerned me because it made me think that, wow, so you mean you do all these things to take care of yourself and you die so.
What truly stunned everyone wasn't just Prince's words, it was witnessing Diddy's complete emotional unraveling in real time. For 2 full days, he had been the picture of control. When accusers pointed fingers, he remained expressionless. When damaging photos were presented, he calmly whispered to his attorneys. Not once did he show a single visible crack in his carefully constructed image. But everything changed the moment Prince's voice resumed after that brief pause. As the recording played on, Diddy's transformation was immediate and startling. His high-profile attorney, known for defending some of the biggest names in entertainment, gently placed a hand on Diddy's arm in a subtle effort to keep him composed. But Diddy abruptly jerked away, knocking over a glass of water on the defense table. Several jurors reacted visibly, exchanging glances, whispering. The man who had built a career on appearing calm, cool, and in control was unraveling, moment by moment. A courtroom sketch artist later described it as one of the most dramatic shifts in demeanor she'd ever seen during testimony. Diddy's breathing became visibly erratic, his shoulders rising and falling rapidly. His eyes darted across the room as if searching for an escape. The judge, a veteran of countless high-profile trials, kept his gaze fixed on Diddy, clearly recognizing the signs of someone nearing a breaking point. Diddy shifted repeatedly in his chair, then reached up with trembling hands to loosen his tie. He leaned into his legal team, urgently whispering something that made 3 of his attorneys huddle close. Tension rippled through the defense table. Then, Prince's voice named a date, March 9, 2016, and a Beverly Hills address that prosecutors had already introduced as key evidence. The moment the address was spoken, Diddy suddenly stood up, not slowly or cautiously, but in one swift, erratic motion, like a puppet yanked by invisible strings. 4 security officers immediately stepped forward. His attorneys grabbed at his suit jacket, trying to pull him back into his seat. Their expressions were pure panic. One lawyer whispered urgently into his ear. Another positioned himself between Diddy and the jury box as Prince's voice continued, describing a private room and disturbing behavior that aligned exactly with the charges brought against Diddy. Then it happened. Diddy snapped, "That's a lie," he shouted, his voice booming through the stunned courtroom. He wasn't even there. That never happened. The outburst was so sudden, a reporter in the front row physically recoiled. The courtroom froze in shock. Bang. Order. Order in this court, the judge shouted, slamming his gavel. He fixed Diddy with a sharp glare. "Mr. Combs, control yourself, or I will hold you in contempt." The room fell silent, except for Prince's voice still playing softly through the speakers. At that moment, the prosecution's strategy became crystal clear. They had waited, holding this recording until day 3, after Diddy had grown comfortable, assuming he had weathered the worst. Then, with precision timing, they delivered the one piece of evidence that shattered his composure completely. And it worked perfectly.
Ever since my 3rd album, I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work. I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise. And they would always hold this contract up and say, well, you signed it. And I say, well, I understand that. It's not like I want to leave. I just want to, talk about this thing and see if we can't make it more fair. Of course, they wouldn't change, because if they changed, they wouldn't really exist. And that's kind of the situation we're in right today. They're not going to exist much longer. But it's not like we're against them or anything like that. The idea is that we find better ways of working with one another. It shouldn't be a situation where they own the album or the work. We're talking about intellectual copyright. If they're going to be indeed a delivery service, then that's fine. But even FedEx doesn't say that they own the thing that they ship.
Cassie Ventura on the witness stand for a 4th day in the federal criminal trial against hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The defense continuing cross-examination this morning, confronting her with dozens of her own messages, many explicit, hoping to convince the jury she was an eager sexual partner who matched Combs' desires. "I'm always ready to freak off," one message said.
She was into the freak-offs herself and was like a willing participant participant and was into all the freaky stuff, and essentially that was the crux of what they were trying to do yesterday.
And do you think they proved that or not?
I mean, there's texts like that from 2009, I'm always ready to freak off. There was some other texts where she was referencing like hitting him up about the FOs, is what they were referring to him. To me, like, yes, this doesn't look good, but at the same time, I think the timeline is crucial here. And these are texts from 2009, man. That was when they were first getting in the relationship. She was young. Obviously, they were in the honeymoon stage, and she was stoked to like, oh my God, I'm with Diddy. I'm living this lavish lifestyle. Of course, she's going to be saying things that she knows will.
After the judge restored order, the prosecution resumed playing the Prince recording, and what came next left the entire courtroom stunned. Prince hadn't just made vague accusations. He laid out 3 specific allegations that struck at the very core of the case against Diddy. His voice, steady and clear, revealed that he had been secretly documenting disturbing behavior in the music industry for years. "I keep everything," Prince said. "Dates, times, who was there, what happened. I've been doing this since 2007. Legal experts in the room exchanged glances. This wasn't some offhand commentary. It was meticulous documentation from one of the most disciplined minds in music. The first bombshell came when Prince described parties he attended at Diddy's homes. "These aren't just parties," he explained. "They're calculated events. I watched him separate young artists from their teams, isolate them, and put them in situations where they couldn't say no." Prince then described the interior of a Beverly Hills property in unsettling detail, room layouts, decor, and private spaces, matching floor plans already submitted into evidence. As he spoke, the courtroom was silent. He expressed deep concern for how young, hopeful artists were manipulated at these events. They come in thinking this is their big break. By the time they realize what's happening, it's too late. They're already trapped. I've seen it happen to at least 7 artists. The second revelation was even more direct, a confrontation between Prince and Diddy. "I approached him at a Grammy afterparty in 2016, Prince said. "I told him I knew what was going on and that it needed to stop. He laughed in my face and said, 'You might be Prince, but you're not untouchable.' I took that as a threat." Diddy's legal team, visibly shaken, scrambled to take notes, completely blindsided. But it was the third allegation that delivered the most damning blow. Prince described specific financial transactions, naming dollar amounts, dates, and individuals who were allegedly paid for their silence. He mentioned $2 million to one person, $1, $3 million to another, amounts that precisely matched earlier prosecution evidence. "I've seen the payments," Prince stated. "I've seen the NDAs they signed. This isn't just rich people behaving badly. It's systematic. It's calculated." The depth of detail, the precision, made it clear Prince had access to information only a true insider could obtain. His tone shifted again, growing somber. "I'm making this recording because I'm afraid to speak out publicly. The power structure in this industry protects people like him. Nobody wants to believe what happens behind closed doors." Then came the final, haunting words. "If anything happens to me, make sure this gets to the right people. This isn't just about protecting myself, it's about protecting everyone who hasn't been able to speak up." When the audio fell silent, the courtroom did too. No whispers, no movement, just stunned silence. In that moment, the prosecution had achieved something extraordinary. They had turned Prince into their most powerful witness from beyond the grave. The lead prosecutor stood, paused, then simply said, "No further questions, Your Honor." She didn't need to say anything else. Prince had spoken, and the truth could no longer be buried.
That the Diddy's team tried to do was show how they had breaks, and she like was with Michael B. Jordan and was with Kid Cudi for a minute. But during that time period, she was still having freak-offs with Diddy, and I think that was them trying to show like this wasn't a controlling thing. Here she was like hooking up with other people. She just was into the freak-offs.
I kind of buy that, to be honest.
So
like, she is out of the freak-offs then. She is, when she's with Kid Cudi or you know, allegedly with Michael B. Jordan, she's kind of out of the freak-offs if she wants to be. So why do you keep going back? Yeah. I know it's kind of like a mental, like, she still loves Diddy. Diddy was jealous about her.
Oh, yeah, because that was another thing that the prosecutors were trying to do, is show that, that they had a very jealous relationship. She would get jealous when he's with Kid Cudi. Also, like, Kim Porter, Cassie would be jealous of Kim Porter.
Right.
Trying to show that, like, Cassie, you were in love with this guy. That's why you were jealous.
Right.
So, like, this was a real
It
relationship.
was just interesting to see Chris Brown's.
I mean, he's always coming up somewhere, dude.
He is.
Chris Brown.
All right. Final story of the week. Justin Bieber is not a victim of Diddy. So this was one of those like rumors or whatever that was flying around in the months leading up to the trial. And to be honest, there was quite a few rumors flying around, like, you know, was there minors involved? Says if no other celebrity was part of Freak-Offs, why are they in hiding? Are they in hiding though?
I don't think they're in hiding. I just think other celebrities didn't want to insert themselves. No one wants to be tied to Diddy one way or the other.
Even if you're at a white party, like just having a lot of fun at, you know, one of Diddy's white parties, you don't want to be linked in any way.
No, and that's why, like, all those people, there's a few people I think that have come forward and been like, I didn't see any of this freak off.
In just 7 seconds, Diddy's outburst turned the entire trial upside down. The moment Prince's recording stopped playing, Diddy's legal team launched into crisis mode. His lead attorney stood up immediately, voice unsteady. "Your Honor, we request a 15-minute recess to consult with our client." The desperation was palpable. But the judge didn't flinch. Request denied. The court will continue with the presentation of evidence. Then came the glare, directly at Diddy. "I expect no further disruptions." For a team used to dominating the courtroom, attorneys who bill $1,500 an hour and almost never hear the word know this moment was a brutal blow. And across the aisle, the prosecution knew it. Though the lead prosecutor kept her expression neutral, her co-counsel allowed herself the faintest smile. They exchanged a glance. It said everything. Their trap had worked. They wanted that outburst. They anticipated it. And now it was part of the court record. A legal analyst seated just behind the press bench leaned toward his colleague and whispered, "This is catastrophic for the defense." They spent 2 days painting him as calm and innocent. That image just shattered. The judge addressed the jury. "You are to disregard the outburst. Emotional reactions are not evidence." But every trial lawyer knows the truth. Once a jury sees something, they can't unsee it. 3 jurors were now staring at Diddy, watching him, studying every move. And court security wasn't taking any chances. 2 more officers moved within feet of the defense table. One stood directly behind Diddy's chair, close enough to act if needed. From that moment on, the day only got worse. The prosecution continued, presenting evidence that lined up perfectly with what Prince had described. Financial records that mirrored the payments he mentioned. Text messages from witnesses that described the exact same scenes. Diddy sat there, sweating through his designer suit. His hands trembled so visibly that his lawyer handed him a legal pad, just to give him something to hold. When offered water, he declined. By mid-afternoon, he looked physically ill. The confident mogul was gone. In his place was a man cornered, unraveling in front of a national audience. Then came the final blow. Diddy's attorneys filed an emergency motion to exclude Prince's recording from the trial, claiming it was unauthenticated and potentially manipulated, given that the witness was deceased. To the legal minds in the room, it was clear. This was a panic move. Emergency motions are a last resort, a white flag, and the timing said it all. Prince's voice had done what no accuser, no journalist, no lawsuit had managed to do. It cracked Diddy's image, publicly and irreversibly. As court adjourned, experts were already predicting how history would remember this moment. "This is the point people will look back on," one TV legal analyst said. "The moment the case was lost." A veteran court reporter put it more bluntly. "I've covered hundreds of celebrity trials. I've never seen a defense collapse this fast. It was no accident. Prosecutors had been planning this for months." Insiders revealed the prosecution held that Prince recording from the very beginning, but waited until Diddy got comfortable. The first 2 days, just a setup. They lulled him into a false sense of control before unleashing their most devastating piece of evidence. A source close to the team confirmed they rehearsed the entire sequence, down to the second. When to play it, when to pause, when to look at Diddy. They even practiced their facial expressions for when he lost control. And the recording itself, bulletproof. They spent 4 months authenticating it. 3 separate forensic audio experts. No alterations, no edits. The goal, make it unshakable in court. They even studied Diddy's past court appearances, looking for patterns in his behavior. What did they find? He was usually calm for the first 48 hours, then loosened up. So they timed the bombshell for hour 49. Strategically, precisely. They built the case like architects. First, witnesses, then documentation, then transactions, so that every single detail Prince mentioned had already been corroborated before his voice ever hit the speakers. But this wasn't just about the jury. It was about the world. Day 3 of a high-profile trial is when cable news coverage usually dips, after opening arguments but before closing fireworks. Dropping the biggest bombshell on day 3, that was no coincidence. They just hijacked the media cycle, one analyst said. Now the story leads again. As court emptied, the contrast was clear. The prosecution packed up calmly, confidently. Meanwhile, Diddy's team huddled in panic, some on urgent phone calls, others slipping through legal texts, grasping for any lifeline. In just a few minutes, everything had changed. Diddy, once a titan of the music world, was no longer the man on a fence. He was a defendant on the defensive, watching a lifetime of power unravel in real time. And all it took was one voice. A voice from beyond the grave. As the courtroom doors closed and the world reacted, one question lingered among industry insiders. If that's what Prince had in one recording, what else is in that vault? Because now it's not just Diddy who's sweating. It's everyone who was ever in the room.
Pictures of her after a beating of some kind, according to her. But the jurors are definitely paying attention. I don't see anyone that's not keeping their focus on Cassie Ventura. And also I noticed them taking notes a lot of times.
And the children, as they were exiting court yesterday, 2 of the girls were seen crying. How emotional have they been in court?
Again, I cannot imagine if that was my father or somebody close to me up there and having to hear details of their sex life. Those are young women. They lost their mother, one of them, the twins. So no one can probably quite understand what it is that they're going through, but I think that's something that you think about on both sides, you know, to look at Alex Fine, which is Cassie Ventura's husband, and think about him having to listen to all that's being said about the type of woman that Cassie Ventura was versus the person that's expecting, you know, their 3rd child together now. So whether it's Combs's family or Ventura's family that's there to support her, her brother and her husband, Alex Fine, I think it's difficult on both sides. Seen him taking notes from the beginning. I see him put his glasses on. He gets very close to the screen when they're reading some of those text messages. So he's paying attention.
Now, Ventura confirmed that she and Combs had conversations about a swingers lifestyle, but that the freak-offs, they were very different.
Yeah, so she talked about this idea where I guess Combs wanted her to watch him have sex with another woman. She said that happened 2 or 3 times, but that he mentioned it frequently.
Kim Porter came up today in testimony. What was the significance there?
The defense said early on that this case would be about infidelity, love, and jealousy. And this is where they brought that up today when they brought up Kim Porter's name. The defense asked Cassie Ventura, are you jealous or were you jealous of Kim Porter? And Ventura sort of contemplated, but did get to this moment where she said, knowing that Combs spent holidays with his family, which meant with Porter, did bother her. And she admitted that. They also pointed out that there was testimony where she talked about being insanely jealous overall as a girlfriend. So, yeah.
We're hearing the judge wants Cassie off the stand.